Okay, welcome back. We're learning Tractate Shabbos. The name of the chapter is Bamei Isha. It's chapter 6. We learned the Mishnah yesterday. We'll start from the Gemara. Amar l'Rav Nachman Echi Senan. How was the dispute actually taught in our Mishnah? Did the Mishnah say that Rabbi Meir permits an amputee to go out with a wooden foot, whereas Rabbi Yossi forbids it, or was it the other way around? Amar le lo yadana, I'm not sure. Ilchit Amar, what's the halacha? Amar le lo yadana, I'm not sure what the halacha is. Itmar, Ena Amar Shmuel. Shmuel said, Ena kitea, and the amputee may not go out with his wooden foot on the Shabbos. These are the words of Rabbi Meir, but Rabbi Yossi permits it. Cheno of Rav Huna, and so too Rav Huna said, Ena kitea. The Mishnah's true reading is an amputee may not go out with his wooden foot on Shabbos. These are the words of Rabbi Meir, but Rabbi Yossi permits it. So according to the reading of both Shmuel and Rav Huna, Rabbi Meir prohibits an amputee to go out with his wooden foot. Rabbi Yossi permits him to do so. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Oil v'Amar Shmuel ena kitea. Since Shmuel said that an amputee may not go out with his wooden foot on the Shabbos, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. Amar Rav Huna eina kitea. Rav Huna as well said that the Mishnah reads an amputee may not go out. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Anan nami nisne eina kitea. So we too will learn that the Mishnah reads an amputee may not go out. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. So Rav Yosef agrees that according to the Mishnah's true reading, Rabbi Meir prohibits an amputee to go out with his wooden foot, while Rabbi Yosef permits to do so. So Rabbi Meir prohibits, Rabbi Yosef permits.
It would be interesting to see what they do with all the new prosthesis that the soldiers have.
Yeah. So Maskiv lo Rav Oshira objected to Rabbi Yosef's occurrence, and he said, Lo shemelu od masnu le Rav Chanan bar Rav o lechia bar Rav kamei de Rav b'kitenu devei Rav. Ena kita yoytze b'kav shelo. An amputee may not go out with his wooden foot. Di Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi mati. Rabbi Yossi permits. Umach v'le Rav epuch. But upon Rav singled to him, to Rav Chanan bar Ravo, to reverse the opinion and to say instead that Rabbi Meir permits a wooden foot while Rabbi Yossi prohibits it. So we see from this incident that Rav disputes Shmuel's reading. Why then does Rav Yosef follow it? Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak v'Simono Samech Samech, and the mnemonic for Rav's reading is Samech Samech. Since the pasuk, the phrase Rabbi Yossi prohibits, Rabbi Yossi Oiser prohibits, has two words containing Samech. So it says in number 11, one can thus jog one's memory as to the correct version by making a mental note that the proper reading contains two consecutive words containing a samach. For further discussion of this particular mnemonic is fasemis. Okay, so Rav Shmuel retracted his opinion regarding this issue that now Cholzo b'sandal sheinu sheloi. If Avama performed chalitza with a sandal that was not the Avama's property, sandal shel eitz, or with a sandal of wood, oy shel smol bemin, or with a left shoe from upon the Yavam's right foot, chalitza kshero, the chalitza is valid. Vamrin and Mantana, who is a Tana who holds that a wooden sandal is legally considered the shoe. Amar Shmuel, Rabbi Meir. Shmuel said it's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. The sandal is legally considered a shoe. Now, an amputee may go out on the Shabbos with his wooden foot. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. So we see Rabbi Meir permits it. Rabbi Yossi prohibits him to do so. Rabbi Meir holds it with regard to the laws of Shabbos. A wooden shoe is legally considered a shoe. Likewise, with regard to the laws of Chalitza, it is Rabbi Meir who holds that a wooden sandal is legally considered a shoe. Rav Huna retracted his opinion regarding this issue. The Tanya, For a Baisa has taught sandal sayodin, a plaster seller's straw sandal tome midras is susceptible to contamination with midas tuma. V'isha chalitzas bo, and a woman may perform chalitza with it. V'yotzim b'Shabbos, and one may go out with it on the Shabbos, since it has a legal status as a shoe. Rabbi Akiva, these are the words of Rabbi Akiva. But the sages did not acquiesce to him, for since it is not common practice to use straw for footwear, a shoe made of straw is not legally considered a shoe. Vatnan, we have learned in the Mishnah, the sages did acquiesce to Rabbi Akiva. Amar Avuna, man hoidu loi, who is the one of those acquiesced to Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Akiva, that agreed, who holds that in our Mishnah that one may go out on the Shabbos with a wooden foot, thus ruling that even a shoe made of material not commonly used for footwear is considered legal, is accorded legal status as a shoe. He therefore agrees with Rabbi Akiva that although straw is not commonly used for footwear, a sandal made of straw is legally considered a shoe. Man lo idulo, and who did not agree with him was Rabbi Yossi. Amar Rabbi Yosef, man lo idulo, who is another one? Hoidu is plural. So who else? Rabbi Yochanan ben Nur. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nur did not agree with Rabbi Meir. That nan machser sakash vers sakash kaver shel kash shver shel konim, a straw mat or a straw tube. Rabbi Akiva metaber, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nur metay. Rabbi Akiva holds that they are susceptible to tuma, and therefore consider them a shoe. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nur metay. Rabbi Yochanan holds that they are not susceptible to tuma, so obviously he's not considered them a shoe. Amar Mar, sandal sheseldin tam midras, a plaster seller's sandal is susceptible to contamination with midras tuma. Alav leilucha avdei, but a plaster seller's sandal is not made for walking, but only to protect one's shoe from being burnt by the plaster. It is therefore should not be susceptible to midras tuma. Amar Ravacha bar Avula, sheken asad metalbot shemagel vesa, because even after work the plaster seller will often continue to walk in it until he reaches his home. Maybe he takes home his working shoes. If the wooden foot possesses a receptacle for rags, it is susceptible to contamination with tuma. Amar Abai tome tumas meis vein tome midras. The wooden foot possesses a receptacle for rags, is susceptible to contamination with corpse tuma, but not susceptible to contamination with midras tuma. Rava Omar, Rava said after midras, it is also susceptible even to contamination with midras tuma, since the cripple sometimes uses it to support his weight.
Since its primary purpose is not to support the cripple's weight, but to disguise the fact that he's missing a foot, no?
It says over here, if the wooden foot possesses a receptacle, it is susceptible even to contamination with midras tuma, since the cripple sometimes uses it to support his weight.
Well, let's say after that.
Amar Rabba Menashe Amitay, from where do I find a source to say this? That Nana Golo Shakot Midras, a child's wagon is susceptible to contamination with midras tuma, even though it is used only occasionally to bear the weight of the child. We see that even occasional use as a support renders an article susceptible to midras tuma. A wooden foot is likewise susceptible, since it is sometimes used to support the cripple's weight. I don't know what you were reading.
No, it was the first sentence, and the second sentence. I missed the second sentence.
Rabbi Omar Osum Samichiloi, there, in the case of a child's wagon, the child supports itself upon it often. It therefore is susceptible to midras tuma. But here, in the case of a wooden foot, the crippled person does not support himself upon it often. It therefore is not susceptible to midras tuma. From where do I find a source to say this? The Tanya for Baisa has taught Makel Shezkenim Tov Meklum. Walking stick used by elderly people is not susceptible to contamination with any sort of tumor, including midras tuma. we see then that an item used only occasionally for support is not susceptible to midlas tuma. Also, in the case of walking stick, the su'ut is sugya avida. It is never used to support one's full weight, but is meant solely to straighten one's steps by bearing a part of one's weight. It therefore is not susceptible to midlas tuma. But here, in the case of wooden foot, it is made not only for cosmic or cosmetic reasons, but also to occasionally support one's full weight upon it. And indeed, those who use it do support their full weight upon it from time to time. It is therefore susceptible to midlas tumat. May midlas, the chair and the leg supports of one whose lower legs have atrophied. Yeah, we saw it yesterday also, atrophied. Are susceptible to contamination with midlas tuma. Ve'en yotzim b'Shabbos, and one may not go out with them on the Shabbos. Ve'en nichnosim b'Lazoah, and one may not enter the temple courtyard with them. What don't you know?
No, okay. I mean, I don't know if without what do you call it?
This is dealing with the chair and the
No,
leg
but
supports.
Let's say our friend over in Century Village, he wouldn't be able to go to shul.
But this is dealing with a place where there's no Eruv.
Right.
Tana Kamed Rabbi Yochanan, a teacher of Baisus, taught the following in the presence of Rabbi Yochanan. One may enter the temple courtyard with a leg support of one whose lower legs have atrophied. I learn another bite that a woman may perform chalitza with the leg support, since it is legally considered a shuv, and you are quoting, one may enter the temple courtyard with a leg support, since it is not considered a shu. Obviously, you are teaching this by saying correctly. Tanei, rather than teach in the text of the Baisa as follows: Ein nichnosin bohen lazoa. One may not enter the temple courtyard with these leg supports, since they are considered shoes. Luktimin, te'ero luktimin, are susceptible to contamination with tuma, and one may not go out with them on the Shabbos. Lukitmin.
Yeah.
So the Gemara says, what is lukitmin? My lukitmin. Amar be'abau chamora de hakafa. They are wooden donkeys that are carried upon the shoulders of clowns. Okay, fake wooden donkeys that the clowns would carry on their back. So don't carry them on Shabbos. These clowns were street performers who could incorporate these devices into their acts. The donkey would be suspended between the performer's leg, giving the impression that he was riding it, but actually hung from his shoulders. You ever seen it? I seen it once, I think, in Australia. Yeah, it's like a street performer that. So he has this thing of look like a wooden donkey, looking like, and it's connected to his waist, but there's some kind of a material around it. Over here, it's just connected to his shoulders, so it looks like he's riding a donkey. Anyways, it says this is what lukti mean. Don't go out with it on Shabbos or Papam or Kishire. They are stilts used to walk in muddy areas. I guess it's probably a type of a special shoe. Rava ba'unoma perome. They are masks used to frighten children. Okay. Nu Mishnah abonim yitzim b'kshorim uvnei melachim bezugin. Boys may go out on Shabbos with knots, and princes with ornamental golden bells. And this is actually of any person. However, the sages spoke in regard to the prevalent custom. So, what does it mean with knots? So it says the Gemara will explain what manner of knots these are and why they are restricted to young boys.
Okay. Right away it talks about it.
Mike Shorim, so the Gemara says, what is not? Amar Od Amar Nachum Bar Baruch Amar Vash Bar Ren Amar Yehuda Kshurei Pua. They are knots of the madder plant, which are hung about the neck for their curative properties.
It was like a Hawaii.
Yeah.
Matter is a plant.
Amar Abai Amar Li Aim, mother told me regarding knots of madder, Tloso Mukme, 3 knots contain the illness. Chamisha Mas 5 heal it. Shiva Filuch Shavmal 7 are beneficial even for warding off witchcraft. Amar Ravacha Bar Yaakov Hu Delei Chazil Shimshon V'Siyahu, and this is true that knots of madder heal only if the knots are not exposed to sunlight or to moonlight, and if they are not exposed to rain, and if they are not exposed to the sound of metal clanking, or to the sound of rooster crowing. Crowing, and to the sound of footsteps. Madder knots has fallen into a pit. It is useless since it is impossible to comply with all these conditions. Why? For what reason the Mishnah says the word bonim? What about bonis? Afilu bonis nami. Even girls should be permitted to go out in this manner, since madder knots constitute a remedy for them as well. Why does the Ketanim? What reason does it teach the law only with regard to minors? Even adults too should be permitted to go out with this. I guess it's an herb, knots of madder. Yeah. With this plant. Why can't they go out with this plant? Elamai Kshorim, what is it? So the Gemara presents a different explanation. Rather, what are the knots spoken by our Mishnah? A son who yearns after his father, who is parting from him. The father takes a strap from his own right shoe, and knots it to the boy's left arm. This will alleviate the boy's sadness. And your for this practice is tefillin, which are also straps knotted onto one's left arm with the right hand. For the opposite, strap from the left shoe knotted to the right arm constitutes a danger, as it will cause the boy excessive yearning, or perhaps plunge him into dangerous melancholy. It is all right for one to invert a hot cup upon the navel on the Shabbos. I guess also for healing. So the Gemara refers to a cup that was first filled with hot liquid and was then emptied and placed upon the navel to relieve stomach pain. The heat draws one's flesh toward it, thereby returning. It's like those what do they call them? Cups that people put on their back and make
suck up the blood. Right?
Yeah. So this is for healing. Also, they put it on the navel. And navel, they mean the belly button, right?
Exactly.
So it says over here, it is all right for one to invert a hot cup upon the navel on the Shabbos. It is permissible to smear a mixture of oil and salt upon the palms of one's hands and the soles of one's feet on the Shabbos to relieve one's inebriation, being intoxication.
Yeah, drunk.
Sobering one who is intoxicated does not qualify as healing. Is therefore not included in the rabbinic decree that prohibits healing. I just saw that the Israelis are trying to come up with a drink that will make you high, but no side effect.
Sounds good.
So
it's better to have the side effects that way. Maybe you won't drink so much.
Ki od Ravuna mibei Rav, as the case of Ravuna when he would come from the house of his teacher Rav, Rav mibei Rabbi Chia. And Rav, he would walk, he would come from the house of his teacher Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Chia mibei Rav, and Rabbi Chia from the house of his teacher Rabbi. Rabbi Chia mibei Rabbi. Ki ovu mibasme, when they were inebriated, when they were intoxicated.
Yeah.
Is it inebriated?
Yeah.
Ma'isi mishcho milcho, their teacher would bring a mixture of oil and salt. He would smear it for them upon the palms of their hands and the soles of their feet, and they would say, just as this oil is thinning out because of the warmth of this person's body, so too should the wine causing the inebriation of this person, so and so, the son of so and so, they say the mother's name, become thin and impotent.
That's not nice.
Why?
To say get thin and impotent.
It will go away. You will lose the drunkenness, lose the intoxication.
That thin means like thin.
Let's see. And if oil and salt were not available, they would bring the clay seal of a barrel and soak it in water and say, just as the clay of this seal is thinning because of the water. So let the wine causing the inebriation of this person, the wine causing this intoxication, so and so, the son of so and so, become thin and impotent, meaning being ineffective.
But why are they throwing in the impotent business for?
Not impotent is not only in sexuality. Impotent can also mean ineffective.
All right. Okay, let's
with,
go on.
With intoxication also.
All right, that could be.
When the wine you're drinking potent drink, and
now you want to make it weaker, so okay.
And you want to make the potent impotent. That's
right.
it.
I didn't think about that. I mean, my mind isn't that bad.
Normally, I can't teach you English. That's your language, right? It says it is permissible to perform strangling therapy on the Shabbos. What's the strangling for? So it says, it's also probably, it says strangling therapy.
Yeah.
Okay, a type of a therapy.
It's like a chiropractor. Now I had know how to
manual manipulation of one's neck, neck bone.
He said that was a malaka of building when you would do this. So he wouldn't do this on Shabbos.
Who?
Like the chiropractor I had in New Jersey.
It was a religious guy.
Yeah, he wouldn't do it because he said it was a malaka of building.
Okay, lepuve yenuka b'shavos shabbos dami. Omar Ovin bar Hunam of Chambar Gurian lepufe yenuka b'shavos shabbos dami. It is all right for one to wrap an infant on the Shabbos in order to straighten its bones. I guess wrapping him tightly. Rav Papa Masne Bonim. Rav Papa taught children in plural. He taught two rulings regarding healing children. Rav Zavid Masne Ben. Rav Zavid taught child singular. He taught only one ruling regarding healing children in the name of Avin Bahuna from Rav Chama Bar Guria. So Rav Papa Masne Bonim v'Sarbayim Masne Avin Bahuna. He taught both the rulings concerning nuts to alleviate a boy's melancholy, and that concerning wrapping an infant in the name of Avin Bahuna, since these rulings were transmitted to him in Avin Bahuna's name. Rav Zavid Mosne Ben, Rav Zavid taught a child, Kamaisa Mosne Bahuna, because while he indeed taught the first ruling regarding nut therapy in the name of Avin Bahuna, in whose name was transmitted to him, and he taught the second ruling regarding wrapping an infant in the name of Rabbi Bar Chana, since it was transmitted to him in Rabba's name. Rabbi Bar Chana said, it is all right for one to wrap an infant on the Shabbos in order to strengthen its bones. Rav Papa attributes the ruling concerning wrapping an infant to Rav Avin Baruna, whereas Rav Zavid attributes it to Rav Bar Chana. Amar Rabbi Amrali Aim, mother told me, Kol minyane b'shmo d'imo. All incantations are recited with the name of the sufferer's mother. So when it comes to refuah, v'chol kitri b'smolo, and all knots are tied upon the left arm. Amar Rabbi Amrali Aim, mother told me, Kol minyane d'mipaushe k'd'mipaushe. All any incantations whose number of repetitions are stated in their formulae are to be repeated as often as stated. And those whose number of repetitions are not stated are not to be repeated 41 times. This and those whose number of repetitions are not stated are to be repeated 41 times. To be repeated. Tanu Rabbanon Yotzei V'Emet Tukum b'Shabbos. A woman may go out on the Shabbos with a preserving stone that preserves her pregnancy. Look at that. Even with counterweight of a preserving stone, an object that was weighed against such a stone. And this stone is permissible not only if she miscarried previously, but even on the mere suspicion that she may miscarry. And the stone is permissible not only if she knows that she has already become pregnant, but even on the more suspicion that she may become pregnant and miscarry the fetus. This only true if the item used as a counterweight. If the item used as a counterweight was exactly equivalent in weight to the stone when it was weighed against it. However, it was necessary to add or remove from the item in order to match the weight of the stone. It is not effective, and therefore it may not be worn outside on the Shabbos. Boya by mishkal the mishkal mai. What of the counterweight of preserving stone? Question mark. Is it also effective in preventing miscarriage? The Gemara says, let the question stand. It remains unanswered. A mother said to me, for a fever that strikes daily, lishkol zuzah chivarta, one must take a white zuz. I guess it was a white coin, newly minted silver coin. A zuz is a coin of a particular denomination. Lishkol zuzah chivarta v'leize lemilchato, and go with it to a salt evaporator. It was a wide pool connected to the sea by way of a trench. The pool would be filled with salt water, after which the trench would be closed. The sun would then evaporate the water, leaving behind deposits of salt. Got it?
Yeah.
V'lisko misakle milcho, and weigh against it its weight in salt. And he then must tie the salt by the neck opening of his shirt with a strand of hair. This will cure him of his fever. And if these items are not available, then he must sit at the crossroads. And when he sees a large ant carrying something, Gamolo. Interesting, because Gamolo is usually translated as a camel. Over here, the translation is ant. I know. But anyway, so Lishkele Rishadi, so and when he sees a large ant carrying something. Lishkila v'shadu guvt nachosha. You must take the ant and place it into a copper tube.
Yeah.
V'listem v'avoa. You must enclose the tube with lead. V'lichtem v'shitim gushpanke, and seal it with 60 different types of seals. V'lavazule. You must shake the tube v'lidrei and carry it. V'lei malei. And then say to the ant, Te'una chalai u'tu'unaya loch. Your burden upon me and my burden upon you. He thus reads himself of the burden of his daily illness.
Sounds good.
Yeah. But perhaps another person had previously found this very ant and stopped his illness by it, had assigned his own illness to it. When the present sufferer now takes the ant's load upon himself, he inadvertently accepts yet another illness upon himself. This cannot be the proper manner in which to recite this incantation. So, rather, you must say to the ant, my burden and your burden upon you. Rids himself of his illness while leaving those already upon the insect where they are. So, my burden and your burden upon you. And if these items are not available to the sufferer, lishkol kuza chadato, you must take a small new earthenware vessel, v'lezel now, and you go with it to the river, v'lei malei nahar now, and you should say river, uzpan kuzo demayu chadikla li, lend me a vessel full of water to heal the routine, the daily illness that has come upon me. Liadar shav zimni al reisha, he must circle the vessel full of water, toss the water behind him into the river, v'lei malei, and say to the river, nahar now, shkol maya diavatli, take back the water that you gave me, that you gave to me. For the routine that has come upon me, it come upon me in its day, and it has now left me in its day. He thus sloughs off his illness into the river. Amar Avuna, Tilso, for a fever that strikes every 3 days. There's another healing that we'll discuss tomorrow. Talking to you.